All right, here we go. Watch this video for what day? Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday already. May 8th. Showing you the SPY. I said in chat today, if you weren't there, that this sell-off might be a little more powerful than the gap down yesterday, because what happened was yesterday the market gapped way down and buyers stepped in and ran it up all day. So then today it gaps down and pretty quickly gets through yesterday's low. So everybody who was feeling pretty cocky about the big bounce in the market and everyone, hey, we bought the dip, you guys are idiots for getting short, then today is a different story. Then it takes off to the downside and all of these people are underwater that went long, right? So made a little difference. I only had a couple trades and I was extremely distracted, as you guys know. My wife got called away, and so I ended up in charge of the house with no less than 2 different contractors today all at once. And as you all heard me on a hot mic today saying, hey, you're pretty distracting. I did not mean to leave the mic on while I talked to the contractor. But anyway, it was one of those days. I was a little distracted. Only took a few trades. Made a few bucks, but that's it. But you know what? That's the beauty of being a day trader, especially if you're a long bias day trader. If the market's weak, you don't have to be in a trade. And I did not take a trade all afternoon. I sat there and looked for stuff and just never found anything that looked really, really good. And who wants to fight the overall market? There's nothing wrong with sidestepping a day or two, letting some setups form. Even if there's a couple really ugly days in the market, for me, that just means I'm going to have some really nice bounce play setups forming, right? So there's nothing wrong with I would rather sidestep action like today where it just kept bleeding lower and lower and lower in an ugly day. I would rather sidestep that than I would to nickel and dime myself to death and then get in a situation where I feel like, oh, I just want to get my morning, I want to get my losses back and then start trading, making desperate trades when the market's ugly, right? So there's nothing wrong with sitting on your hands is the moral of the story, right? All right, anyway, so there's the SPY. What am I watching tomorrow? I'm going to watch Pinterest again. I really liked it over 30 today. It topped out at exactly 30. I like whole number inflection points, especially when they're relevant on the recent chart. Now today, it topped out at 29.75. So literally there's a quarter, right? Or 3/4, I should say. Half numbers, quarter numbers, and whole numbers can be powerful. And this one topped out at 29.75. So over that, then you might just rip right through 30, which would be yesterday's high and so on. But who knows, right? It's a weak market. It didn't close near its highs, but as long as Pinterest is kind of hanging on, and in an ugly day, you could argue it held up pretty well today, right? I think this could have another leg higher in it, so it goes on watch. All right, ROAN, again, in an ugly day in the market, I would argue this one held up pretty well. Had this pop, and it's flagging in just a very narrow range today. Look at that, like, 17 cents on the entire day? Very low volume. So, again, I look at that and say, you know what, I like the daily chart still, and it held up really well on an ugly market day. This FPAY, there's really nothing compelling here about this chart, except that in after hours I saw it trading at like $1.03, and I think it's getting decent volume. So the assumption, at least the assumption I'm making, is that they had news. Maybe it was earnings, I don't know. You may think, well, why the hell didn't you look it up before you made the video? I don't know, because I'm a day trader. I have time in the market, in the pre-market tomorrow, to double check and see if it had news. And also in the pre-market is the time when I'll look and see if it really is going to gap up tomorrow, right? It could have just been some anomaly after hours, or somebody thought it was a good story. So we'll watch it tomorrow as a potential gap play. Today's high, you could also argue, held up pretty darn well today, right? In an ugly tape. So today's high was a little over 96 cents. Back here, it hit $1.04. Back here, $1.03. So you could kind of argue it's a breakout over $1.04-ish, and it's, like I said, it's trading right there in after hours. So I think that one is worth watching. I would point out that today's big volume spike still wasn't a million shares. As I'm babbling, I'm just checking out finviz.com to see if I can see any news. Let's see, 10 minutes after the bell, they reported first quarter financial results. Revenues up 53.8%. Adjusted EBITDA of $2.3 million and net income of $504,000. So I don't know anything about the company, so I have no idea how that compares. But revenue is up 53%. Sounds good. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes alive a little bit tomorrow. It says 7.2 million to float, so it's a decent low floater. Absolutely worth watching tomorrow. ZIXI, a couple red days on declining volume after the big breakout. Potential bounce play tomorrow. JMIA. Let's see, like 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row down after it IPO'd and had that huge move. Had a really nice secondary move, right? And now we're getting ready to start a tertiary move. Sounds weird, but that's actually the right word. Anyway, with 4 days down in a row, bit of a bottoming tail, and as you can see from the daily candles, this one can really move at times. I'm going to watch it, all right? AKRX, nice gap up on strong volume, actually closing pretty close to its highs. So let's keep our eyes on that one. The daily average true range on that stock is pretty lame though. So having said that, the volume might catch some attention, and we'll see if it gives any kind of clean setup tomorrow. ABIO, man. Wayne took one of those quiet entries today. Right over this intraday kind of sideways action with yesterday's high right there. You know, we love those 2-day high breaks on recent high flyers. It was so thin, I didn't get involved, but Wayne took a quiet entry there, meaning he didn't call it in chat. He said it was too thin to call, but then look at that. It got a huge move. His entry, I think, at 11.50, and the thing went up over 15, so I'm happy for him. I mean, that was the only way to play that, too. As a moderator in a room with a couple hundred traders, and as thin and spready as that was, it would have been irresponsible for him to, with it, like at one point, I think it had like 50, 60 cent spreads. It was just stupid. It would have been irresponsible, for him to have made a call in it. And that's the kind of straight up guy he is. He wasn't going to do that, but he did take a nibble there and ended up doing pretty darn well. Anyway, I want to watch it tomorrow because it did have that nice intraday run, had this huge monster run back here, closing well off its highs though, so I like it a lot less with that big old kind of topping tail, but I will have it on a chart. It is really spready though. I doubt I'll trade it tomorrow. CBLK, talk about relative strength. Look at that. Look at that daily chart amidst an ugly market day. The 200-day is right above. But who knows? Maybe we get an open below today's close, below 1674, a little narrow range. And then if we break out of that range, we know we've got today's high, which is 1678, as a potential catalyst, and a 200-day minimum as a target, right? So you could still maybe get a low-risk setup in this one, all right? And then lastly, I've got ATAI, which was a former high flyer. It almost came back in a round trip, but a little extra volume today, closing well off its highs, but again, on a weak tape, that's a pretty strong day, all right? I'm going to leave it at that. I'm tired. It's been a long day, and we'll be back at it in the morning. I'll see you all in chat.